value 2, absolute value x plus 3. Okay. Just real quick as review, what's the critical point here?
0, 3.
0, 3. I'm not subtracting anything, so it's 0. I'm adding 3, so it's going to be the critical point, 0, 3. So now I can write this as a piecewise function, okay? Because there's two cases for absolute value. The first case is if the number inside the absolute value is positive. So what's the number inside the absolute value in this case? X. So that's going to be my domain restriction start. So x and x. Those are going to be my domain restriction starting points. Those are my domain restriction starting points. Okay. So now let's talk about the two cases. X can be one of two things. Negative or positive. It can be one of two things. So those are going to be my two domain restrictions. X is going to be greater than 0, or x is going to be less than 0.
Why 0?
Do you always?
It's always positive or negative. It's always 0. Okay? If it's positive, let's look at the absolute value. If the number inside an absolute value is positive, does the bars, do they do anything?
They turn into parentheses.
Right, do they do anything to anything inside?
No.
No, so that's why it just comes out and it turns into parentheses. 2 parentheses x plus 3. The absolute value signs are useless. They don't do anything. They don't do anything. Okay? Now let's look at the opposite end. If this were negative, are the absolute value signs important?
Yeah.
So what do they do? What do they do to the thing inside if it's negative?
Change it negative. Positive.
It changes to a positive, so it flips the sign, right? So that's all we do. We write it again, keeping the parentheses. But now it flips the sign. So instead of a positive number here, we flip it, so now it's a negative. And that's all.
Only the outside number change?
Think about it this way. This changes whatever. So this comes out negative. So imagine just like a little negative sign just hits it. Right? Just hits it. That's it. That's it. You want me to do one more?
Yes.
Let's do the next one. Okay. Real quick, can someone recall what the critical point is for me?
HK.
What is it?
2 negative 2 positive.
Positive 2, 6.
So it's positive 2, 6. Okay, that's the critical point, 2, 6. Okay, and now let's look at the domain restrictions again. So for the domain restriction for this, what's inside the absolute value? What's it?
Negative
Plus,
2.
X minus 2.
X minus 2, that's my domain restriction. X minus 2, those are my domain restrictions. What can X minus 2 be? What are the two cases that X minus 2 can be?
Greater than or less than?
What? Greater than or less than what?
X 0.
2. 0.
0. Whatever is here, X minus 2 can be greater than 0, right? It can be positive, we don't know. Or it can be what?
Less than.
Yeah. Those are my domain restrictions, that's it. That's it. Greater is positive, less than negative.
Why did you write it like that instead of?
So that's a good point. I want to change this so it looks just like up here, like x is greater than 0, x is less than 0. So what can I do to both sides to change that? Add 2. So that's why we add 2, to make it look like the ones we did before. So this is going to be x is greater than 2. That's your final domain restriction. And it's going to be x is less than 2 for my final domain restriction. So now I have my domain restrictions. I want my equations, okay? If x is greater than 2, does the absolute value sign matter? Does it matter?
No.
No. So what do they just turn into?
Parentheses.
Just turn into parentheses. 1/3 parentheses x minus 2 plus 6 just turns into parentheses. Okay, that's all it does. That's all it does. But what if it's negative? What if the thing inside was negative?
You leave it like that?
You leave it like that if it's negative?
Change it to positive.
Change it.
It's already positive.
Oh.
Change it to negative.
So let me backtrack. The number inside, if it's negative, you're right, Hazel, it changes it into a positive, right? So what happens to the sign? It switches signs. So this switches signs. Everything else stays in parentheses. So it turns into negative 1/3 plus x times, or x minus 2 plus 6.
Doesn't matter if the slope is negative.
Doesn't matter.
And okay.
Doesn't matter. And then of course you can distribute this, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to. If you wanted to simplify it, but we don't need to for today.
Okay.
If 1/3 was already negative, it would turn positive.
Yes, it was just switch signs. Okay? Yes, Cameron?
I'm still confused with like how you know which way to point, like x is greater than or equal to, like at the top.
So think about it as always going to be greater than 0 or always going to be less than 0. The order doesn't matter. This is the positive, this is the negative.
Okay.
So it's always going to be one version is greater than and one version is less than.
If it's positive, it's facing that way. If
It's facing
negative,
towards
it's
x. Yes, if it's negative, it's facing away from x.
Okay.
Okay, what do you think? Better?
Yes.
Try the last one. Try the last one. I'll put up the answers. Check it when you're done. Try the last one. Don't check it until you're done. Melissa?
Are you done with the video?
Yep.